welcome to another episode of About the Authors TV. I'm your host, Jake Brown. The New York Times has heralded celebrated ballerina Joy Womack's one of a kind career as audacious, and The Hollywood Reporter not long ago mused at the pitch line of her career that as the first female dancer to join the Bolshoy ballet is sounding like something out of a movie. It is. Noting indeed that her life has already served as the basis for a 2021 documentary, Joy Womack, The White Swan, as well as a biopic called Joyka, starring Talia Ryder as Womack and Diane Kruger as her instructor, Tatiana Volkova. Introduced by Dance Magazine as first making major news in 2012 when she joined the Bolshoi Ballet at the age of 18, CNN added that when she left the Bolshoi, Womack joined the Kremlin Ballet Theater as a principal ballerina, dancing close to the Russian president's office, next to the cathedrals inside the red walls of the Kremlin. Fleeing Russia at the top of the Ukraine war, LA Magazine revealed she had to leave everything behind as she couldn't go back to Russia to get her things. And as along with becoming an advocate and opening her own ballet studio back in the US, earned a unique position within the ballet world that her home state of Texas Lifestyle magazines correctly called renowned, and is poignantly captured in her new memoir, Behind the Red Velvet Curtain, an American ballerina in Russia. And she joins us today to talk about it all. Joy, welcome to the show. We typically kick off one of these by asking when an author first as a child dreamt of becoming one. You had a different vision, one the U.S. Embassy in Russia has recorded as first occurring when Joy Womack was 7 years old and told her mom that one day she'd become a ballerina with the famous Bolshoi Ballet. Please take us back to what first fascinated you with dance, which within its movements and beauty certainly has its own storytelling style.
Dance training, like for being a professional dancer, it's something that is very similar to gymnastics. Like the talent has to be kind of it has to be realized by somebody who knows what they're doing at an early stage and kind of get that person into where they need to go. I'm saying that with the baggage I have on my shoulders. My parents had no idea. I was just a kid that had so much energy, wanted to touch everything, could not sit still. And so my parents were like, okay, she obviously needs more exercise or or something to help her calm her down. And I have 9 brothers and sisters. And so of course it wasn't just like, oh, we're gonna take Joy to dance. It was like, no, we could enroll 3 kids for the price of 1. So it was me and my twin brother and sister. Uh who enrolled in a dance class, and I just remember the first time I was in a ballet class, and I was like, "Yep, I think this is what I wanna do the rest of my life." I think for me, ballet in some ways was my solace, was my safe place. Like, I grew up in a family of 9 kids, like, chaos you can imagine in my home, and ballet was something that was just for me, like, it was something where I could be Joy instead of one of the 9 in the family, and I think it was one of those things where like discipline and excellence were things that were kind of instilled in our home. There very much was like it was very competitive. It was very much about like you have to get straight A's, and so I think I had that mindset, and so bringing that into a space where not everybody was being raised like that, I excelled because it was like I thrived on doing things right and wanting to. And here I was in an environment where it's like you have to be perfect, but perfection doesn't exist. So it's like, okay, let me just chase being better and trying hard. And I don't know, there was almost a reward for being hardworking and focused, and because discipline, and just I like this is me psychoanalyzing it, but because those traits were really valued at home, I think I excelled in dance because, I was able to kind of take what we already had in our household, like, and apply that to dance.
As your dream began to dance its way into reality, The Hollywood Reporter, providing some factual background from your film, revealed that you were born one of 8 children to a middle class family, until 12, where you lived in Santa Monica, then moving to Austin, Texas, where your mother enrolled you in a dance school that specialized in the Vaganova ballet technique. That led to a scholarship at the Kirov Academy of Ballet in Washington, D.C., which led you to then apply to the Bolshoi School of Moscow, where you were accepted, and moved at 15 years old, graduating top of your class and being accepted into the Bolshoi Company, which was unheard of for a non-Russian dancer, much less an American. Wow, that's history making right there. Could you please travel back with us to paint a bit of a picture of all it took in the way of focus, fearlessness, and it sounds like quite a bit of personal sacrifice to get there, given how cutthroat the competition is?
People often don't talk about, like, it's like, okay, yes, the physical load is something very visible. Yeah, we can see somebody's dancing around, they're sweating. But the psychological load of being a ballet dancer is almost heavier than the physical load. The physicality is easy, you know what I mean? It's like, all right, go and do it. But It's like, okay, now go and do that in front of 1,000 people, and then have people in the wings who hate your guts, and then have a director that you're trying to prove that you are worthy of the job to, and be dancing with a partner with maybe that was your boyfriend, but now you're not together. It's like there's so many different psychological pressures that can exist. And again, everyone's searching for that perfection, and the perfection doesn't exist. And so you really have to work a lot to not only maintain your own peace, but also maintain your joy. Don't allow anything else inside of inside, you know. And the second you lose focus, that's when you lose your level. That's when you lose, what you're trying to do.
As your career advanced from there, Point Magazine spotlights the fact that you really did so as a solo journey, leaving at 15 years old unaccompanied by a parent or an interpreter, and equipped only with leotards and a steely determination to head to Russia. She had one goal: join the Bolshoi Ballet. Along the way, could you give us a bit of a sense of what the reality is like behind the curtains? As Point gives a bit of a preview to, and depicting a journey marked by suffering. Studying at the Bolshoi brought intense pressure, resulting in life-threatening bulimia. Even dancing on broken heels, we understand, to earn your spot in the company?
As a dancer, there's your soul, right? There's like what you want to express, and then there's the technique or the right way of doing things. And like I always had the soul, and so that was something I had to get the technique in Russia. So it was almost like being somebody who hears music by ear, but then has to learn how to read music. And so it was very much an anomaly, me going to Russia. At the time, there was maybe one other girl that had done something similar. Everybody thought she was crazy. Um, and everybody was trying to get into New York City Ballet and ABT, you know what I mean? Like, the holy grail is like, "Oh, yeah, it'd be great if you could get a job in Europe, but those are hard to come by. You gotta be from a lot of money." And, like, my parents had nothing, like, there's 9 kids, like, and I was going to a school, I was on scholarship, in Washington, DC. That already was considered one of the best schools in the US, and my parents just couldn't afford it. And so I was trying to find another option, and I was auditioning for JKO school, which is American Ballet Theater School, and I couldn't afford it. Even like with my grandmother living in Manhattan, I couldn't afford it, even with a scholarship. And I was just like, well, it's so crazy. Like for me, my whole life, it's always been every single door is closed except for the one that I'm supposed to take. And I got scouted by a woman from the Bolshoy, and she was like, "Do you want to come to the school?" And I was like, "Is that even possible?" And she's like, "Here, send your stuff to this email." And I got I got accepted to that program. I kind of describe it as think of it as a huge pyramid, and it just gets sharper as you go up to the top. And people, it's one of those things, it's a continual thing of you're fighting your body, you're fighting your mind, you're fighting like there's always going to be somebody that's better than you, that's skinnier than you, that's more talented. And it's like, if that's going to be the thing that defeats you, then you shouldn't have been there in the first place. It's like you have to stay focused. You have to like I think, like, on a technical aspect, in the US, you start at a regional dance school, then hopefully you get into a school that's in a bigger city. Hopefully you get selected and have scholarships and do competitions to get more scholarships to get noticed, and then you end up in a training program that's before a company, and then the company decides to give you a second contract, and then you make it past the second contract, and you make it into the company, and then you try to work your way up from the corps de ballet to the principal.
Filling in a bit of further history on the storied pedigree of this school and its graduates you were studying at, the New York Times noted that the Bolshoi Ballet was formerly known as the Moscow State Academy of Choreography. It was established in 1773, and its alumni include some of the most illustrious dancers in the history of ballet. While there, the LA Dance Chronicle, referencing the documentary Joy Womack, The White Swan, reflected the sort of rigorous daily routine we'd expect for a dancer's life, where we watch as she drives herself to train and rehearse longer hours than her Russian classmates at the Bolshoi Ballet Academy, struggle with injuries and financial difficulties that almost end her chances there. The film follows Womack as a dancer with Bolshoi Ballet and the ramifications of statements that she made regarding the politics behind the selections of who gets to perform which roles and when. It's worthwhile to see this film to understand what hurdles a female ballet dancer must endure to reach the status of soloist, principal, and finally prima ballerina. The competition for women in ballet's always been fierce and even vicious, but for Womack as an American living and training in Russia, those hurdles were raised even higher. The training she received in America was vastly different than what was expected of her at the Bolshoi. Please reflect back from your own memories on what sort of a juggling act that all that surely was of keeping the choreography of such a demanding career going on and off stage, what that really looked like for you.
In Russia, it's more simple. It's like you have your state schools, and you get selected. You're one out of 1,000 girls that get selected. Your class maybe 30 people, and you 15 people gets cut when everybody turns 15, and then 15 turns into 9, and then, okay, 9 people are trying to fight over the same 2 jobs in the company. Teacher who was there, what turned out to be one of the Russian coaches, she's like, "No, I don't want you in the international. I want you with the Russian girls." And the school director, randomly came and watched the end of the show, and she's like, "Okay." And my teacher from day 1 is like, "I want you to think about trying to be in the Bolshoi." I was on autopilot because that was the only door that was open, and I didn't have time to think about whether it's crazy or not, because it was like I couldn't think about giving up my dream, because the other option was not failure, but the other option was don't be a professional ballet dancer and go rethink your life. When I was 15, so I had skipped, just so you have like an idea, like when I went to Kirov Academy, I got a scholarship, but it was for a place that was in ninth grade and I had only finished sixth grade. So I had to skip 2 school years to like start that. So I had done ninth grade and 10th grade. And so basically I was going back into like the equivalent of like a tenth grade in Russia. But the Russian school system is like completely different. And I was going in just like I left American school and was like, okay, I'm going into Russian school. And I didn't speak Russian, so I had to teach myself Russian. So I'd get up at 5 a.m., do my and start stretching, because all the Russian girls were so flexible. They've been doing like rhythmic gymnastics, as a discipline. And Americans, we didn't do any of that. So that was like a cultural shock. And so I'd get up and sit in my splits and just go through my Russian textbook and just try to listen to Russian, and just I kind of isolated myself too from there was a foreigner group who spoke English, and I was like, mm-mm, only friends with the Russians. I'm only, and the girls in my class, like I got chosen to do things that the older girls, like the seniors and the juniors were getting to do. And that pissed off a lot of people in my class, because like, wait, what? A freshman, kind of idea, like is doing something that is only a senior would get picked for. But I tried to work hard, and I knew that there's a lot of things that I didn't know. There's a lot of things that I was missing in my basic technique. And so I really just it was like I didn't have time to be lazy. Like I had to work hard.
Dispelling the understandable assumption on the surface that ballerinas lead this princess life off stage. From the financial side of the real story, CNN revealed that once you'd made it onto the ballet stage at the Bolshoy, the surroundings may be opulent, but her pay packet was not. For her role as a principal dancer, Womack was paid around $240 a month, which worked out to around $8 a day. The dancer said the amount of money she made in dollars each month had fell as the Russian ruble weakened, and that a friend helped her with accommodation, and that she had to make money stretch in order to buy food. Sitting in the wings of the stage, chatting in Russian to other dancers, and stretching before rehearsals for Swan Lake. She pointed as an example to the $185 in her bank account at the time. She said she had to last her the next few weeks. Well, the New York Times, in its continued coverage of your story, added that when you signed a 6-month contract with a salary of 198,000 rubles, it was just over $6,000 US, and was told that 30% would be deducted for income tax, leaving about $700 a month in a city rated as one of the world's most expensive. During her studies, Miss Womack was nearly forced to quit because her family was struggling to pay the $18,000 a year tuition. Interestingly, Russians study there for free. At another point, a donor from her church saved her career by paying for surgery she needed for a foot injury. That's just crazy, and begs the question, how did you survive being paid so little while giving so much?
I think, like, for me, it sounds sad, but, like, I was always kind of the weird one ever since I was a little girl, so I was kinda used to being the odd one out, and I was like, "Well, I'm fine with me and myself for company." Like, I love reading books, and if you wanna talk crap about me, that's fine. Like, people always talk crap about me and think that I'm so weird. This is how I felt as a young girl, like, it was, and I mean, I think being a teenager, like, those are such hard years. You're feeling big people emotions in a young person's body, and I mean, sometimes it would get to me, but sometimes I just was like, well, I'm going to work harder. Like the only thing I can do is be better and I don't know if all of that was healthy looking back, but it gave me just kind of this single focus of like, I have to do my best on a daily basis. And I think I had the like, I knew that there wasn't a I knew that there wasn't a get out of jail free. Like my parents didn't come with me to Russia. Like I did not come from a family where it's like, "Oh, we're going to drop you off to school and set you up." And like it was very much like, and I knew how big of a sacrifice it already was for them to let me go there, and I didn't want to let my dad down, didn't want to let my mom down. I wanted them to be proud of me. and I didn't want them to have to worry. They have to worry about so many other kids, so it's just like, "Okay, like, put your big girl pants on." I thrive when there's busyness. I think for me, it's really difficult when there's downtime. So, it was like, "All right, let's do some more things." I came to the school in the very last week of August, and I was on stage at the Bolshoy in the middle of October. So, I, like, was, like, thrown right into the stage, and then I injured myself, and that's when I had to get surgery in January, but then I was back on stage, I think I don't wanna say in February. No, I wanna say I was back on stage in April, and then I got to do a big solo that first year, on the Bolshoi stage again, but yeah, I had some pretty significant shows, throughout, like, were in the school time, and that's what helped me get the job in Bolshoi theater, and then when I became part of the Bolshoi company, and when I left the Bolshoi company, I became part of a company called the Kremlin Ballet, which is the company of the and that was such a unique experience, and I owe that company, like, that's the reason today that I'm a principal ballerina. Like, that's, a big thing for our dancers. Like, once you've made it to principal, that's something you carry with your whole life, and I wouldn't be that without that experience at the Kremlin. And the Kremlin very much was a very unique company where we did things that, were for soft diplomacy, and I got to perform for the president for it was a oh my gosh, oh, ASEAN conference. It was the Asian, countries, like, conference that we did in Sochi, and I will never forget that, and was, like, one of the biggest honors, to be able to be, like, by dancing, to be able to dance for these heads of state, and, I do think, like, whether you have your ideas of politics, like, I mean, I do think that art unites people, and that was such a unique experience, and I owe that company, like, that's the reason today that I'm a principal ballerina. Like, that's, a big thing for our dancers. Like, once you've made it to principal, that's something you carry with your whole life, and I wouldn't be that without that experience at the Kremlin. And the Kremlin very much was a very unique company where we did things that, were for soft diplomacy, and I got to perform for the president for it was a oh my gosh, oh, ASEAN conference. It was the Asian, countries, like, conference that we did in Sochi, and I will never forget that, and was, like, one of the biggest honors, to be able to be, like, by dancing, to be able to dance for these heads of state, and, I do think, like, whether you have your ideas of politics, like, I mean, I do think that art unites people. Yelena Olshinska, she was a wonderful, wonderful woman in Moscow who she gave me a place to live for 7 years without paying a single dollar in rent. She was like, "I believe in your talent," and, my wonderful coach at the Kremlin Ballet, Zhanna Vladimirovna Bogorodiska, without her, I wouldn't be a ballerina. I would get so filled with anxiety, like, I could not remember the steps, and she would hold my hand in the corridor and be like, "Let's go over the music one more time." And she like, cause she saw it. Cause when I got promoted to principal at 19, it was like, ugh, I fought something that I hadn't fought before, which is stage fright, because all of these people around me were like, How does she doesn't deserve that. Who is she?" All these voices that I didn't have, and it was like, she would stand there with me in the wings. She'd be like, "This is my guardian angel, this is my," she would take me to these international competitions. I'm like, "I don't think I can do that." Like, one time I was like, "I don't think I," she was like, "What is the biggest thing that you're afraid of?" And I was like, "I'm afraid of falling in at the Varna Ballet competition." She's like, "Okay, we're going there. We're gonna do it, and you're gonna do it. You're gonna place. You're gonna take a medal home." And, like, lo and behold, that happened. But it was like, because she believed in me. She's like, "You need to conquer your fears. You need to not be afraid to fall. You need."
After working so hard, viewers should imagine this scenario as Dance Magazine presented at the time, where it's never easy to pack up or call it quits in your dream position. But Bolshoi dancer Joy Womack made news doing just that after she stunned international audiences when she became the first American to train at the Bolshoi's Russian program and join the ranks of its company, but then announced she was quitting after accusing the directors of extortion. She said she'd been asked for $10,000 in exchange for a role. Her allegations also include cases of corruption, such as dancers needing wealthy patrons to not only support their talents, but also bankroll their careers and promotions. It takes a certain amount of courage to take your destiny in your own hands, move on and make changes they note of the ones you were about to make. Well, risks are scary, but sometimes ultimately worth the reward. And you write candidly about the torturous difficulty of this decision, powerfully in your new memoir. Could you give us a sense of what that felt like while you were in the midst of making it?
I would not be where I am without the wonderful woman in my life who stood in the place of my own mother. Like, God bless her, she couldn't be there with me and be a mother to me in those kind of situations. But Patricia Cloherty, she was a wonderful venture capitalist, and she is responsible for a lot of the privatization after the fall of the Soviet Union in Russia. And she lived in Moscow. And my second year in the school, she was a good friend of my grandmother's, and she's like, I need a roommate. And I owe my success to that woman. She saw how much I struggled, and she just, like, leave a little 5,000 ruble note here, there, and she paid for my extra coaching. She gave me this outlook on the world that was just about being a strong woman and standing up for what you want. And, like, when I was experiencing extortion, for lack of a better word, she was like, you can't stand for that. And she really stood behind me and was like, no, 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 you should really, and that was really scary. And it was a big decision to make at 18 years old, to not really know, 18, 19 years old. And there are big consequences that come with calling out big institutions. And I'll always thank her for the fact that she backed me, she helped me. There's so many women that I could and there right now there's a coach here in Paris. When I had to leave Russia and leave what I thought was where I was going to spend the rest of my life, I was very much like, I think I'm going to quit dancing, and I still struggle with that every single day. I'm in so much pain, and the world is bonkers, and everything's upside down. And his name is Jean-Marie Didier, and every day he's like, "Nope, just come to the bar, do your thing," and he's just there, and he's just a wonderful mentor, and he sends me videos of these famous ballerinas, and he helped me adapt. He helped me learn French, and so, yeah, the list goes on and on of people that I wouldn't be able to be where I am without them.
And as if that wasn't enough sacrifice in pursuit of dreams, LA Magazine further revealed, amid the start of the Russian war against Ukraine, that you were among those Americans who fled back to the United States when the war broke out, Russia to gather all your worldly possessions to take with you. While Deadline.com reported in the aftermath that you went on to become the principal dancer with the Universal Ballet in Korea, then returning to America, where you danced with the Boston Ballet, before settling back in Paris where you reside now. Could you give viewers a sense of what it was like being at the center of what sounds like a whirlwind you went through before landing back on your feet?
I had 2 leotards in my bag. I had 1 pair of pointe shoes, that's it. I left all my diploma, all my papers, all the medals, all the tiaras, all the costumes, all the memories, all everything, like a whole apartment full of my life. And, like, how I feel about it was like, it'll be right there when the world finds its senses, whether that's 2 years from now, 20 years from now. Like, I wanna rejoin with my lovely colleagues, my friends, but I want it to be on terms of peace, and I wanna be part of the good and not part of the bad. Our generation has really gone through a lot of struggles because we had COVID right before this, and that was a big, like, I had just gotten back into shape, like, just gotten back into my stride. We'd moved back to Russia. I was the assistant director slash ballerina of a company in the south of Russia with my new husband, like 3 months. And um, we were really like, we were just about to be like, oh, are we going to move to St. Petersburg next year? I was going to sign a contract with another company, and I'm actually, like, on set. I was in Poland, and my director is like, "Well, you have your shows in March with Swan Lake." I was supposed to come back that next week, and it was just, like, this horrible kind of, like, "Wait, what? My life?" Like, we left our apartment, we left everything behind, and it was just this thing of, like, "I don't think we can come back." And I remember just, like, not being able to compute of, like, what was going on. And my husband is, the brand new husband is like, "We're not going back to Russia." And I was like, "The fuck? What do you mean we're not going back to Russia?" And, like, I didn't, like, then I was like, because I had not been on my phone, I had not seen all of the news. And so I'm starting to see these videos, and I'm like, "What is going on?" And it's just like, I think it took me a month to kind of fully comprehend that the world had, like, completely changed. It was such a deep mourning and deep like, to this day, like, I it's something that hurts deeply, like, I miss all of my friends, I miss my life, I miss the trajectory my career was on, like, I miss it's like because all of a sudden, everything was over. Like, I had to start completely from the beginning, and I couldn't find a job. I couldn't find I like, nobody cared what I did in Russia. Nobody cared, and it was just like, "Wait, what?" Like, nobody needed a dancer, and, I mean, I got a job with the Paris Opera for a short little while, but they didn't have any full-time contracts, and it was like, "Okay, I guess I'm freelance." And okay, I guess I'm gonna have to figure out how to like run my own business, run my own company, or run my own like foundation. But it was just so crazy. Like, whoa, overnight just put into this Western system, which everyone's, it's like people don't realize how different the Russian system and the Western system is of the art in the arts. And like even in Europe, it's very like again, we talked about the pyramids. Well, now I'm at an age where everybody who's at the top of the pyramid has worked themselves up there, and those places for jobs are very, very few in between. There's not just an opening in Vienna or in Paris for another principal dancer. It's like, no, 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 you have to work all the way back up from that. Going on stage for me is almost a religious experience, and it is, I guess we were saying, the psychological stress of it, and there's part of me that's like, I can't permit myself to go on stage with it, and, like, with a sullied c conscience, and that's like, I connect to my 17, 18, 19-year-old self who said no to bribes, and it was like, how could that 19-year-old girl, I couldn't let her down. She said no to bribes, so I can't let myself, I can't let there be a black on my name, like, whether that's the last time I dance, like, I have to be happy with that, and I have to also trust that there's a God that sees that, and it's like, I'm gonna be exactly where I need to be at the right time, and there are gonna be people that recognize my talent and want me on stage or want me as a choreographer or a teacher, and I'm not gonna have to compromise myself for that.
Now, in case anyone watching wants to see all of this happen in real time, they have the reference of not only one but two films about your life. The first coming via the 2021 documentary Joy Womack, The White Swan, and then is captured in the biopic Joyka, starring Talia Ryder portraying you, and Diane Kruger as your instructor, Tatiana Volkova. How surreal was it for you to see your life and times captured and depicted on the silver screen?
I think it's surreal. But I mean, it's a great honor, and I'm very grateful, and maybe it will help tell a story or inspire a dancer that they also don't have to compromise their morals. But White Swan was a labor of love of my friend Dina and Sergey. They also were starting their careers out as like budding filmmaker and producers. Now Dina is doing amazing jobs, and Sergey runs an amazing school of photography and videography in Moscow. But they are amazing at what they do. And they were like, well, let us follow your life. And it turned out from 1 year to 2 years. It took them 10 years to get the film made. And I'm always so grateful to them and what they captured. And like they have video of my exams, like all the way up until me leaving Russia. And Joico, that was such an interesting experience. And I really enjoyed working as a choreographer on a film set. Like, that was so much fun, and I hope to get to do more of that kinda stuff. Like, that was really cool getting to learn about that industry and kind of this full circle moment of, like, I'm from Santa Monica, California, and, working with the actresses, and I don't know, like, it is so fake, but it also is so beautiful to see, like, a lot of very hard work go into something that you're only gonna see on stage for 10 sec like, but unlike a performance, something that's on film is immortalized forever, and it goes a long way to popularize an art form.
We understand you're now starring in a new streaming project on Amazon titled Etoile, where you actually acted the part of a ballerina named Tasha for the first time.
I'm on the cast of, a new Amazon show that's coming out called Étoile, and so I feel like those skills I learned on Joica really helped me really prepared me for that work that I just did for the past 2 years here in Paris. It was really exciting, like, I instead of being behind the camera, I got to be on camera, not as, like, one of the main actresses or anything, but I really enjoyed that experience of getting to dance and use the skills that I learned on Joica, for Etoile, and it was really cool to be part of something that the executive producers and the directors really believe in wanting to make ballet popular to the regular people, and, a lot of especially in the States, a lot of people can't afford to go to the ballet or go out, and so getting to be part of ballet coming into people's homes in a way that they can consume is that was really meaningful.
Your story was captured and immortalized in literary form here too recently. Please take viewers behind the red velvet curtain and inside the story you tell here of an American ballerina in Russia.
That's what's so crazy, like, I don't think we could have written the book, like, if we had just decided to do it after the Ukraine war, because all of everything I had was back in Russia, you know? But luckily, my friend Elizabeth, like, we'd started this idea 12 years ago, and we'd started with her, and she tried to sell it 12 like, I wanna say 11 years ago. She'd done a lot of like, a lot of interviews already, like, she had done so much of the work, and then she just couldn't get a literary agent. People just kept like, then when she got an agent, people were like, no, it's not interesting. It's not the right time. And then after the second movie came out, finally one publishing house was like, yeah, we'll take you on, kind of a deal. And so hats off to Elizabeth of her like in just persistence, perseverance, and like not letting the project die. And we've both carved a year out of our schedules to kind of put the thing together and put it on page, and it took so much time and effort on her part, on my part, like, but she had had already, like, a lot of my journals that I had given her. She'd had a lot of interviews, which, like, one of the problems that we faced when we went to go and publish the book is, like, we had to change a lot of the names because in light of everything that was going on politically, people were just got really freaked out and didn't wanna sign a release about letting their names being used. So that was, like, one of the challenges that we faced, but, like, hats off to Elizabeth, like, and hats off to our younger selves to be like, "We should write a book," because it would have definitely not happened, like, had we been like, "Okay, 3 years ago, like, we're gonna do this," you know? I think I'm still kind of like, I don't know, I'm still not riding that high or whatever, but it was like, the week the book came out, I had something crazy, like, my course that I've been working on for the past 2 years came out. I had a show that I was producing, like, my company was launching for the first time in Paris, and I don't know, there was, like, 3 different things that had happened in that week, so I didn't really get to, like, fully digest this kind of like, "Oh, this thing that's coming out," and then I didn't have the actual physical book in my hand until my husband came back like 2 days before that show, and it was crazy to kinda see the book in my hand. It was like, "Whoa, that's" it's like, "Okay, here's that thing that we've been talking about over emails and Zoom, and then here it is." Um, I think I don't know, that perfectionism is still something that plays. I just feel like I haven't done enough to kind of promote the book, to try to sell it, and so it's like, "Okay, alright, I need to work hard on that. I need to understand and like, I don't know, I just feel like I need to learn more through it, but I also now I'm like, "Okay, what else can I write?" Like, I have this ballet journal that I created. I'm like, "Okay, well, maybe we'll publish that too," but it is such like a I don't know, that industry also is something that I feel really bad for people who are authors full time, and I mean, it's not lucrative, you know what I mean? It's really not. So, it's very a lot of very, very hard work, for not a lot of pay, but it also is, again, like writing something and getting it published, like that's there forever. And, it's a way of kind of like immortalizing a moment. And maybe those immortalized moments can inspire other people to take risks.
Has writing this first book inspired you to want to do more dancing with words on the page?
I mean, like that's just like one of the crazy projects I have. But I don't know. I kind of I've been talking a lot with one of my friends, and one of the things that dancer like, I can attribute my success to is, like, I always write in the morning, and I when I was a student, I was always writing down my corrections and logging different things, and I think that, like, the power of the pen is really important as an artist, and it's really important to keep yourself consistent whenever you hit blocks or whatever. It's like, "Oh, did you stop writing? Did you stop," like I don't know, for me, that's a way to express myself, and yeah, I've already kind of created it, but I'd like to make it a little bit more beautiful. But this like the first edition is for dance students who are really young, but I'd love to make this kind of journal that's for dancers to just kind of write their thoughts down and keep themselves accountable. I think that when you write something down, it becomes concrete. And we live in a very unconcrete world. We live in a world where you can give yourself a pass, but if you've written it down and you say that that's what you want, you can go back 10 years ago, 10 years later and look, did I do it or did I not?
As you continue to advance in your new role now as teacher in charge of your own ballet company, part of the thrill we're sure for you comes with moments like the one Texas Lifestyle magazine reported, where renowned prima ballerina Joy Womack brought her skills and technique to a masterclass at Texas Metropolitan Ballet in Killeen. She'd taught masterclasses around the world, but this was her first opportunity to share her training and experience with young dancers in Central Texas. While home visiting her family in Austin, she was asked if she'd teach at the school and agreed. Unlike some ballerinas who are aloof, Womack's very approachable. 13 advanced students glued their eyes and ears to her, soaking up her movements and directions. The 2 hour class started with her emphasizing ballet basics, such as placement and turnouts. She then moved among the students, adjusting each part of their bodies from feet to fingertips. Her frequent commands included control and internal focus. Along with helping to inspire the next generation of ballerina, what gets you up each day to go out there and keep dancing? Whether with that next generation of ballerinas you're inspiring and helping to realize their dream, or maybe via the old school joy of still going up there and entertaining audiences with the beauty of your own gift.
You have to be disciplined if you want to see success. If you want to see results in any way, you need, and discipline means consistency. It means accountability. And I mean, you have to get up and do the work. You have to go out and do it. And whether you're in a good mood or you're in a bad mood, like excuses are not going to get you very far. And that's maybe like tough love, but um, yeah, I think you have to hold yourself accountable. Big dreams require big sacrifice. So you have to be willing to sacrifice. Recently, something that's been really helping me like get on stage, it doesn't get easier, is having an attitude of gratitude and almost this like tunnel vision that there's like nothing else, not my phone, not the 3,000 emails in my inbox, not my worries, like nothing exists except for this present moment and me out on that stage doing exactly what I love. And the fact that like this American girl from a not wealthy background, like is there dancing with the group of Russians, for these heads of state of these Asian countries. Like for me, it was a really big moment 'cause it was like, and it's something that's changed my perspective today. And this is what I'm currently working on is I do believe that dance can bring countries back together. And that's what I want to do and build with the rest of my life. And I owe that experience to the Kremlin ballet. It changes as you get older and like dance definitely has an expiration date on it. And it's like your body can only handle so much, and it's like, well, your body might be ready to be done, but your heart isn't, your soul isn't. So, it's like, how do you navigate that? And okay, how do you morph that? And so I don't know, I've been cognizant of that, especially the past 3 years of like having to start over again. So it's like, okay, what can I build in the meantime? Like what can I build for myself to be able to steward for the next 20 years? I've never thought about making my own show. If the door opens, yes. I definitely want to have my own company. I have a nonprofit at the moment, and like what I get to do most right now is I travel around the world, being on juries of competitions, giving master classes, giving performances. And for example, I spent 3 months in Ecuador, and there's such a desire to have a high level of ballet, and like their national dance company right now is under threat of their funding being removed. And like, or when I go to Nigeria and I see this incredible school that started on the streets of Lagos and now they want to be part of founding the National Ballet of Nigeria, like those are things I want to be involved in. And that's what I think like the world has to support. And we can't do classical ballet without fundraising. And so I don't know, like I want to be able to be part of creating like the biggest problem that we face as dancers today is there's less and less professional jobs. There's more and more private schools, there's more and more students of dance, but the people who actually get to be paid for what they do is actually shrinking. So I'd love to be part of making more dance companies worldwide. So that's what I currently do on a daily basis. I manage my nonprofit. We have our small company here in Paris where we do shows from time to time. And then I have my course, which this is specifically designed for developing nations and smaller schools that don't have access to really great teachers. It's a curriculum for ages 6 to around 13. And it's the very like fundamental basics. It's everything that I didn't have as a young dancer and what I got by moving to Russia. And I wanted to encapsulate that and be able to give that to people who can't afford it.
Joy, it has been inspiring talking today. Thank you so much for taking out time to be on About the Authors TV.
It's so wonderful to meet you, and you're a big inspiration to me. And I really appreciate you taking time to do this interview. Thank you very much.